Hi, everybody, and welcome to Big Joe's Journal. My name is Joe Tilden. I'm the host of this program. Well, we're in our second week of unusual political conventions. Those of you that watched the Democratic convention last week saw something that, well, really amazing, really amazing. The way it was handled, no big crowds. Probably the biggest crowd was after Joe Biden's acceptance speech Thursday night when he and Jill went outside and there were their neighbors and friends all gathered in the parking lot, fireworks going off and all that. That's probably the only big crowd at the convention. Now, how many were in Milwaukee? Obviously not very many, but it was a unique convention. Is it the way we're going to do things in the future? Well, we just got to wait and see. I think there were a few glitches here and there. We'll see what the future brings. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of review of the way it was done this year. And if it's going to be that way in the future, I think there will probably be some changes made. A few things will be tightened up here and there, and where they had some slip-ups, I would imagine that would be corrected. But in the Democratic ticket of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you have Joe Biden representing, if you will, the past. And Joe's job, the 4 years he's going to be in there, will be to reunite the country, bring the country back together, get us back on track. And Kamala Harris, she represents the future, the direction that we are going to go. Gradually, over a period of time, this country is going to get closer and closer and closer to approaching its ideals. Now, you know the ideal structure for this country was in the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, that all men, and here we include women too, are created equal and endowed by their Creator with the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, of course, over the years in our history, we've fallen real short of even coming close. But bit by bit, we're getting there. You know, it took a great civil war with many, many casualties on both sides to end what the South referred to as a special institution, that was slavery. To bring that to an end in the 13th Amendment, passed by Congress after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, eliminating slavery, the legality of slavery in the United States. And of course, the 15th Amendment, which gave the right to vote to all men, regardless of their race or their religion or where they came from, what their origins were. And of course, the 19th Amendment, which is 100 years old this year, which gave to women the right to vote, the right to hold property, and so forth. Equal rights. It's taking time. It's taking time. And of course, right now, we're hearing the big cry, you know, of defund your police department, stuff like that. And people are starting to look at different ways we enforce the law. There was an article, I believe, in the paper the other day that said some of these so-called bias training things, you know, don't amount to a drop in the bucket. And that's very true. You can't take somebody who has one type of frame of mind and jam your thoughts and feelings down their throat and expect them to change. I know this is a big discussion in the city where certain individuals on the Board of Aldermen are saying, well, we all got to have bias training, got to have bias training. Bias training doesn't amount to anything. If it does anything, it's the exact reverse of what it's trying to accomplish. Because if you try and jam your thoughts in the way you feel down somebody's throat, they're going to revolt against it. And they're going to be even stronger in opposition to what you're trying to accomplish. And over a period of time, these things work out. Men and women begin to see each other as equals. It has taken time, maybe too much time, but it's taken time to get equality. Look at Harry Truman when he desegregated the armed forces. What happened to his party? It split in 3 different ways, but Truman was still reelected in '48. And we go on with Lyndon Johnson with the Civil Rights Act of the '60s. And gradually, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's a slow process. It's a painful process. But we made a big leap forward in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected President of the United States. He had as his running mate Joe Biden, a very, very experienced politician in knowing how to get things done in Congress. Joe was like Lyndon Johnson. He knows where the skeletons are buried, whose hand to shake, what kind of a deal to make, how to push something through, how to work across the aisle. Joe Biden and John McCain, one a Democrat, the other a Republican. In Congress, they would battle. And then when the session was over, they'd go out and have dinner together. Personal friends, but working very, very hard for their view of what this republic should become, what it should be and what it should become. Barack Obama, when he was elected in 2008, I think he got a lot of help from the Republicans, especially when they nominated their candidate for vice president, Sarah Palin. Couldn't have been a worse choice. Frankly, I was quite surprised that when McCain was the nominee, that he would pick an airhead like Sarah Palin. I think she'd flunked out of 6 different colleges. Somehow or another, the folks in Alaska had elected her governor. But she was a total rattlehead, or airhead, or goofball, or whatever you want to call it. And I think the people looked at John McCain, who was an American hero, and in my opinion, one of the great American heroes. And they said, there's a man that is deserving of the presidency. But what if he dies in office and we get this airhead moving into the White House? And I think that had a tremendous influence on swinging the vote to Barack Obama. And of course, Obama was reelected in 2012. And 2016, we had one of the worst elections in our history, one of the most fraudulent. And we made a huge mistake, but we didn't have really a really good choice. And we got Donnie Dumbo, who is in there now with his puppy dog, Pensy. Which brings us to what's going to be on TV at 10 o'clock at night. And that will be the Republican National Convention. And of course, they're going to renominate Donnie Dumbo and his puppy dog, Pensy. Well, in the Democratic Convention, you had a lot of Republicans that want to take back their party. So what are they going to do? They're going to support Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. And on the Republican side, there aren't too many people supporting Trump outside of his immediate family, and even many of his relatives say he's a two-bit loser. His sister, his niece. In fact, his niece has come out with a book calling him the most horrible man on God's earth. And we know that in the last election, his campaign manager was in direct contact with one of the top people in the KGB, which is Russia's intelligence agency. We know that a number of his other people, one of his advisors, there's Stephen Martin, is a top-notch racist and probably what we would call an American Nazi for his views, which shouldn't even be discussed. The man should not have any position in government. And you've had people that served in the Trump administration that he's dumped. John Bolton, I never was a big fan of John Bolton's. He was too eager to get us into war. But he has written a book talking about his relations with Trump. And it's not a book that favors Trump. His former attorney, who did most of his legal dirty work for him, Mr. Cohen, he has come out with a book that talks about the deals he crookedly conceived to keep Trump out of trouble, especially payoffs to the young floozies that Trump had relations with while he was married to his current wife, Melania. And we now know through hearings conducted by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and this is a Republican majority, they have come up with information that Trump had close relations with our enemy, Russia. In fact, they have information, of course, that he had relations with at least 3 Russian prostitutes. And this is probably what Putin is holding over his head. Because Danny Dumbo there never criticizes Mr. Putin. Never contradicts Mr. Putin. Never calls him on many of the things that the Russians are doing, like putting a price on the head of our American soldiers in Afghanistan. For every American soldier that is killed, the Taliban gets financial reward from Russia. And Mr. Putin has never been asked about that by our so-called commander-in-chief. A man who's palsy-walsy with dictators in the crumb bum of society. Well, his sister, his oldest sister, in an interview on television, described him as nothing but a 2-bit scumbag. And that's what he is. You know, when your own family doesn't support you, you know you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Now, because of the convention this week, and I understand he plans to be on all 4 nights, he's going to get his face in there so everybody will see him. And this may work to the Democrats' favor. They see too much of him, people get turned off. And he's going to deliver his acceptance speech from the White House. Very, very unusual. There's some question whether this is legal. According to the Hatch Act, you can't use government property to promote political causes. And certainly the White House does not belong to the current incumbent. It belongs to the American people. We're the owners there. He's just living there temporarily. And he'll be moving out in January. So the Republican convention, I believe tonight, some of his children are going to be talking about how great their daddy is. Well, at least 3 of the 4. One of his daughters, who he's cut out of his will, won't have anything favorable to say about him. And maybe his son, Barron, whose mama had to go to court to get him inheritance rights to some of his daddy's money. Whether he's going to be on, whether he has enough intelligence to go on. So we'll wait and see. And there will be your lackeys that'll be in there singing his praises. One of his prime bootlickers, that's the vice president, who one time was a very respectable man, but who now doesn't amount to a piece of dirt, will be singing his praises. Why not? He wants to be his running mate again. You got to do that. You got to suck up to the big guy. And that's what he's been doing for 4 years. And it's really too bad. Because as a congressman, as a governor of Indiana, he had an ongoing, growing political career of his own. And I think he has shot it down. by being subservient to a president who does not know how to govern. As President Obama said, Trump never understood the job. He never grew into it. Everything was about him. And this Republican convention, 4 nights, it's going to be about him. What's he going to do for America? Oh, he's going to come out and say a few things like we're going to make America great again and all that. He's the one that has dragged America down. Cost us our leadership in the world. We've turned that over to China right now. We're slipping, slipping, slipping. And as our intelligence community tells us, as our military leaders tell us, as some of our political leaders who have the courage and the backbone, this is Republicans as well as Democrats. This country cannot, in any way, shape, or manner, have 4 more years of the current administration because they're totally incapable. Totally incapable. And when this administration goes down, some of their allies in Congress need to go with them, including Mitch McConnell. There's an old this campaign I call Ditch Mitch. And this guy has done more to hold up crucial legislation that would benefit the country than anybody else. And right now, when people need help, what's he doing? He's holding it up. He's not even going to bring it up for consideration of the Senate. The House passes a bill which would keep our post office going. Old Mitchie's not even going to consider it. Not even give it a look. Oh, no, he's working on another program that's going to help us. Yeah. They've been working on that for 4 years. They haven't come up with one yet. He's as dumb as the fathead in the White House. Now, will he go to jail when the current president does? Probably not. Probably not. I would imagine he'll do pretty well covering for his wife. Elaine Chao, she's the Secretary of Transportation in the current cabinet. She kind of has little things of using taxpayer money where she and some of her girlfriends can fly over to Europe on a shopping spree or on a vacation or whatever. They don't go commercial, of course not. They're flown over on a government plane. Somehow or another, there's a question of some $2 million that should have gone into road repair, bridge repair, and stuff like that that has sort of disappeared. And probably there's very little doubt of whose pocket it wound up in. So we're looking at a very, very corrupt administration, and already we're hearing excuses. This election will be the most rigged in history and all that. Well, Dumbo should know. Didn't he do the same thing in 2016? He's trying to do it again in 2020, looking to his Russian allies to help him out. 2016, a vote for Trumpy was a vote for Putin. 2020, vote for Trumpy is a vote for Putin. So, in this most unusual year, 2020 will go down in history as one of the most unusual years in the history, not of this country, but of the world. And 2 unusual political conventions. And we're going to have an unusual political campaign. Joe Biden is the old-style politician. A handshake, a pat on the back, kiss the baby, kiss the ladies. Can't do that anymore. It's all got to be done remote, done on screen. The idea that personal one-on-one contact won't be present in this campaign. But I think the people are smart enough that they're going to see where we are right now. basic question to ask every single citizen in America. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Are you better off under this administration than you were 4 years ago when the Obama administration went out? And do you want to continue going downhill? Or do you want to turn it around and really make America great again? Never mind your slogan and your little red hats and all that stupid stuff. Do you really want to make America great again? Now, if you do that, you want to get America back on track, you want to get America moving ahead, then you're going to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We're going to reunite the country, bring it back, reach across the aisle. Whether you're Republican or don't have any political affiliation whatsoever, we're going to come together as a nation. And then in 2024, when Kamala Harris becomes the first female president of the United States, our 47th president, and our first woman president, she will take the country ahead. But she's a representative of what is new in America as we strive toward this ideal, the ideal stated in our Declaration of Independence, the first part of it anyway. I mean, her father came from Jamaica, her mother came from India. She herself was born in Oakland, California. And it's interesting that Donnie Dumbo tried to pull the same stunt on her that he pulled on Barack Obama, questioning her birthplace. Does she have a right? Of course she does. She was born in the United States, just as Obama was born in Hawaii. And she has every single right to be our vice president. And I think she's going to do a damn good job. You notice when she became the choice, the way the current administration started attacking her, is I think they realized with her on the ticket, they're done. When Joe Biden picked Kamala Harris to be his running mate, he clinched the election. And they know it. And for old Trumpy, well, he leaves the White House. The courts start looking at his tax returns, which he can't hide anymore. He won't have his stooges in the Department of Justice to cover for him anymore. And where is he going to go? Well, usually political bigwigs like that wind up and do jail time, they go down to the Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama, get down the federal lockup down there. And that is probably where the 45th President of the United States will wind up. He'll be going from the White House to the big house. And he'll probably do a little time down there. Hopefully, if he has a cellmate, he'll have the bottom bunk. I think if they're sleeping in bunks, he's going to be a little bit too heavy to climb in that upper bunk. Don't think he'll make it. But he knows his time is limited. For him, it's very, very important. Because by going back in the White House, he can keep himself out of jail for another 4 years. But, you know, there comes a time, no man is above the law. And there comes a time when every man has to pay a price. And his time is coming. And I think he's well aware of that fact. And in the meantime, as we watch, or some of us will watch this show tonight, and there are demonstrations going on, probably not as many as were right after Mr. Floyd was murdered. But demonstrations, they can state out a point of view. But the important thing is to vote. Because what makes the difference is legislation. You know, the word legislature comes from a Latin word which is lex, L-E-X, which means law. Legis means working on the law, passing law. And who passes laws? In this country, at the federal level, it's Congress. And if you're going to make change, you really want to make change, then you vote. You exercise your right, which is a privilege for every citizen in the United States, to vote. You make your voice heard. And this year, it's going to be extremely easy for everybody to vote. Nobody's going to have an excuse, because you can vote by mail. Here in the state of Vermont, every registered voter is going to get a ballot from the Secretary of State's office. And you'll have instructions on it, how to vote, how to sign off on it, how to get it back into your city clerk or your town clerk. So everybody is going to have the opportunity in their own home to vote. And how they vote is their business and nobody else's. A number of people will still like to go to the polls. You go to the polls, you meet your friends, some people you haven't seen since the last election. You meet some of the candidates that are running. And it's a very, very fine social occasion. But for many people, with COVID-19 and everything else, going to the polls this year is not an option. But you do have the opportunity to vote, because it's going to come in the mail. And cast your ballot, goes back in. Today in the news, the Postmaster General, who's an old, well, I won't say he's a chum of Dumbo, but one of his big supporters financially, been appointed Postmaster General. His mission, of course, was to disrupt the Postal Service. And he has done that to some extent, but now he's been caught in the act. And if he doesn't want to be doing a little time, he's got to tread carefully. The idea was to screw up the Postal Service so that people voting by mail, the ballots wouldn't get in time to be counted. And today he came out in a statement. He says, have your ballots at least 15 days in advance of November 3rd. Get them into the mail at least 7 days before the 3rd of November. And they will reach your place, polling place, town clerk, city clerk, whatever, and be counted. Well, you know, there's a federal crime with tampering with election results or impeding election results. And of course, this current administration doesn't want voting by mail. That's why Fatso is saying it's crooked, too much cheating, too much fraud. Because he knows he can't send out his goons to the polling place to intimidate people. Folks are going to vote in their home. They're not going to be intimidated by anybody. They're going to vote the way they want, stick it in the mail. And it's their business, only their business, whom they support. So, as we spend this week looking at the Republican National Convention, be rather unusual. You're going to see a lot of the guy with the yellow hair, matches his backbone. Going to be on all 4 nights. Make your own judgment. But look at the country the way it is. Look at the way it was 4 years ago when he took office and the promise that we had of a country moving ahead by the policies of the Obama-Biden administration. And look at where we are now, and the crisis we're in. Our role in the world. At one time, we were undisputed leader. Now we've more or less turned that over to China. So it's time to turn things around. We got the people that can do it. Biden-Harris ticket will do it. With that, may Almighty God in His infinite wisdom continue to bless these United States of America. God love you. Have a great week. See you all next week.